You usually do see them on there? You wanna go check? Right. John's gonna go check. I know he's here. I know he's here, yeah.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Let's see, first of all, roll call.
Attendance noted.
Good. Approval of the minutes. We had a regular planning commission of July 22nd and study session of August 12th. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Is there some motion and a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries. Thank you. Okay, this is an opportunity for the citizens to address anything that is not on the agenda tonight. So if there's any topic that you wish to put before the Planning Commission, this is your opportunity. Going once, going twice. Okay, nothing on that. On to the public hearings, and item number 1 is amend the planned unit development and conditional use permit for Cedar Point Commons planned unit development. The amendment requests permission to allow a McDonald's restaurant to occupy one half of the vacant site at the northwest corner of 66th Street in Richfield. Staff?
Thank you. The City Council approved a final development plan for the Cedar Point Commons project in June of 2006. The project included a Super Target, Home Depot, full-service restaurant, bank, and 7 smaller multi-tenant buildings. 4 of the smaller buildings were proposed for the northwest corner of 66th Street and Richfield Parkway. Those buildings were not constructed along with the rest of the site in 2007 and have remained vacant. In May of this year, property owner Ryan Companies submitted an application requesting approval of a major amendment to approved plans in order to reconfigure that area for a McDonald's restaurant. The proposed building orientation, site design, and materials led staff to recommend denial of the proposed amendment. The Planning Commission also recommended denial, and that application was withdrawn prior to consideration by the City Council. Ryan Companies has submitted a new application intended to address staff and Planning Commission concerns. The restaurant is approximately 450 square feet smaller than was previously proposed and faces both Richfield Parkway and 66th Street. Exterior building materials have also changed in an effort to better coordinate with the development across the street. I'm going to go through a few policy regulations here. As everyone knows, PUDs are intended to encourage the efficient use of land and resources and to encourage innovation in planning and building. PUDs provide flexibility in the application of dimensional requirements, so long as the proposed development is well designed and can be successfully integrated into the neighborhood. They're also expected to provide superior design and benefit to the community in exchange for the requested flexibility. A few items of note in this new proposed plan. The drive-through setback. Any drive-through service window, teller, or order station must be located at least 150 feet from any residential parcel. This requirement is not met in this new proposal. The northern portion of the existing church site is designated as single-family residential. On the site plan in your packet, you'll notice that there is a circumference there that indicates the 150-foot radius. You'll also see that they've added a dashed line indicating where the setback is from an actual residential property. That's on the north end of the site in what's indicated as the Ryan Property Zone PC2. So for all intents and purposes, the intent of this regulation is met. In terms of parking, the applicant has requested a reduced parking requirement based on their operational knowledge and experience, and staff has typically supported these reductions based on internal requirements when the proposed retailer is prolific in an area. City requirements call for 60 parking stalls. McDonald's internal calculations will call for 38 parking stalls. The proposed plan includes 47 stalls. That is 15 short of city requirements. The Institute of Transportation Engineers, however, does support a reduction. Their standards estimate a maximum demand of 44 parking stalls for this restaurant, and staff does support the proposed reduction. We do have concerns about delivery traffic. Despite the change to smaller delivery truck, the site will remain quite challenging. There are a number of parking stalls that cannot be occupied if a delivery truck is expected to successfully navigate the site. The proposed application indicates that deliveries will not be made during peak hours. However, that fact alone does not guarantee that the impacted parking stalls will be available. A similar issue impacting different parking stalls is present for garbage pickup. Limiting hours of operation to allow for deliveries and waste hauling when the restaurant is closed is one possible solution. The parking of delivery vehicles on Richfield Parkway or 66th Street will be prohibited. One minor landscaping issue, they have provided the required amount of landscape islands in this new site plan. The trees do not meet requirements, and so as a condition, if you were to approve, we'd ask that final landscape plans be further reviewed by staff to include shade trees in the parking lot. The proposed lighting plan exceeds permitted levels. While staff has historically allowed for modest variations from code requirements, the proposal exceeds historical tolerances, and we believe it should be modified. The proposal also exceeds requirements of the final PUD resolution for the Cedar Point Commons project, which states that light levels should not exceed 0.5 foot candles at any residential property line, and their proposed plan does. A revised plan addressing those issues and all other lighting requirements should be required if approved. As proposed, the site signage does not meet minimum setback requirements. Given that the boulevard will be exceptionally large because of the Three Rivers Park Trail, we do recommend allowing for a reduction to a 2-foot setback. That way, in combination with the 3-foot clear zone for the trail, the intent of that 5-foot setback would be met. Additionally, they've requested permission for an off-site sign. You'll see that there's a shared driveway to be used in conjunction with the Ryan property to the north, or what will remain a Ryan property to the north. And there will be an entrance sign on that Ryan property. In this case, for safety and convenience, we do recommend approving that. Additionally, the proposed plan must agree with the comprehensive plan and the Cedar Point Commons PUD. The property is designated in the comprehensive plan as regional commercial, and it is within the Cedar Avenue Corridor Master Plan area. A wide variety of commercial uses are permitted in this area. As a stated policy of the comprehensive plan is to accommodate business growth that respects the values and standards of the citizens of Richfield. Development is expected to be responsive to the surrounding neighborhood. Approved plans for the Cedar Point Commons project called for 4 retail buildings, which would be oriented in a similar fashion to those east of Richfield Parkway. The requested amendment introduces a use that was not originally contemplated, and it changes the design of this portion of the project from one that mirrors the redevelopment across the street. The Commission and Council must find that the proposed amendment remains consistent with the goals, policies, and objectives of the city plans. Generally, I provide an attachment to your staff report that goes through the specific requirements and findings that you must make in order to approve a particular application. Tonight, I'm just going to highlight those so that it will aid in your discussion here. All of these following findings must be made in order for you to approve the development. The proposed development must conform to the goals and objectives of the city's comprehensive plan and any applicable redevelopment plans. It must be designed in such a manner as to form a desirable and unified environment within its own boundaries. The development must be in substantial conformance with the purpose and intent of the guiding district, and departures from that guiding district must be justified in the design of the development. The development cannot create an excessive burden on parks, schools, streets, or other public facilities and utilities that serve the area. The development cannot have undue adverse impacts on neighboring properties. The proposed use must be in compliance with the performance standards of the code, and the use cannot have adverse impacts on public health, safety, or welfare. Finally, you must find that there's a public need for such a use at the proposed location. Staff would be happy to answer any other questions. Otherwise, I will turn it over to the Commission.
Any questions of staff before we open up the public hearing?
I do.
Okay, Tom?
The remaining property, the Ryan property that you referred to, that is going to be of such a size that would allow what?
Chairperson Jabs and Commissioner Rubline. I do think that's probably a question that could be better answered by a representative of the Ryan Corporation at the Advisory Review Committee meeting, which is the staff's kind of scrutiny of the plan. We asked them the same question, and it sounded like they don't know exactly what the future holds for that site. We have the same concerns that whether or not it's appropriately sized for a reasonable future use.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Root?
Thank you. So theoretically, if a church school were to become an available parcel and this area were in the future, if we had a parcel in Richfield that was the approximate size of this existing parcel plus the church-owned property, can you give me a sense of what that is that a full city block then at that point? Or I meant to drive by it on my way here and I failed to get a feel for what our options are in that space.
I'm not sure I'm understanding which part. So the McDonald's parcel?
So the McDonald's parcel, the northern parcel, and then the parcel that's currently occupied by, is that Calvary Lutheran Church School, just to the west of?
Right. It would be almost a full city block. There
Okay.
there are a few single-family homes on the opposite side of the block.
Okay.
Just, they're to the north. You can see where that boundary is coming in, the 150.
So if I had to estimate, I would say that the McDonald's proposal is probably taking up about 40%
Okay.
of a typical Richfield city block.
And then do we have a snow plan that was submitted with any of this? I don't, typically we don't get that at this particular
Yeah.
meeting, but
Again,
this property has
yeah.
a bad reputation with snow removal and maintenance, and I'm just kind of concerned about looking at this type where that was supposed to go.
At the Administrative Review Committee meeting, staff came up with the same concern there as well and asked the applicant. The response was, the folks we're dealing with are primarily in the real estate side of things, and that they felt that they would have to defer to the operational side of McDonald's. So I'm not sure if they have any operational people here tonight or not.
I'd just like to add, one of the conditions for the Target across the street is that they remove their snow. And I think that I would recommend that be made a condition of any approval here, that the snow actually be removed from the site. We generally put in a condition that says all of the parking must be available year-round and don't specify where you have to, store the snow. But you could put something in there that specifically said it has to be removed from the site.
Further question, and it doesn't so much have to do with the McDonald's proposal per se, but I'm still very concerned along this entire route with walkers coming across from Target or wherever they park there, they do whatever, decide to take the kids over to McDonald's, can't see a parking space, they leave their car parked and they decide to walk across. Do we have adequate pedestrian crossings along here proposed? Do we have those marked? Are there plans to do that?
Commissioner Rubline, there's the pedestrian crossing as part of the roundabout, just slightly removed from the roundabout, so that is east of this site. You'll see it as a break in the median there. I don't think that it's necessarily the most comfortable crossing from one side of the development to the other. However, I would say that this orientation of the McDonald's property and the location of these crosswalks is a significant improvement from the previous submittal.
Okay. With that break that's there, is it possible to put some additional signage, flashing lights, such as the crossing that we have right by Wood Lake Nature Center, or some additional signage like we have around the Portland roundabout and the swimming pool area and so on, that would add some, a bit more protection, caution, traffic calming for that area.
We would have to discuss that with the Public Works Department, what options are available to us.
Okay.
But
You know, if that's something you ultimately would want to recommend as a body, we would take that first to the Public Works folks, and then try to get that included in whatever would go to the city council.
Well, we do as a whole try to present ourselves as pedestrian friendly in the city and the developments and so on. And I think, you know, this is a good example of where I think we should start putting some actual physical action in to go along with that. So if you know, later on in our discussion, if we can take that up and propose something, I'd really appreciate that.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Otherwise, we'll open it up. So, okay, none? Did the developers want to come forward and give us some information at this time? And also anyone else that wishes to will get their opportunity.
Here tonight. My name's Trish Rothy, and I'm with Kimley Horn and Associates, and we're the civil engineer working for McDonald's on the project. You guys all recall we were here a couple months ago with a different site plan. We listened to your concerns that you all had. We went back to the drawing board. We tried to address as many of those as we possibly could within the physical site constraints of this property. So first, I just want to take a few minutes and point out the things that we changed from last time based on your concerns. First and foremost, the architectural elevations. The materials were changed to be more consistent with the development across the street. I think staff is generally happy and concurs that it makes more of a cohesive development now. So I won't go into too much detail, but we're here for questions on those. Windows are now facing the main streets, being 66 and Richfield Parkway. Tying into that, one of the big concerns last time was the building orientation as it relates to the front setback and the front yard. So as you can see, we've rotated the building 180 degrees so that the two front building elevations are facing your two main roads. With that, another concern was this internal site circulation. By rotating the building, we actually have a one-way circulation counterclockwise, which eliminates some of the previous concerns with traffic conflicts. On that same note, a previous concern was the queuing space for the drive-through. You can see in this plan, we have two one-way traffic, 2 lanes leading up to the drive-through. So if there is an extremely busy time for the drive-through and somebody's waiting to get into that drive-through lane, there's a bypass lane. So it's not going to impede any of the site circulation. Another concern was the intersection level of service and safety, since there is only one access point for this site. To address those concerns, we've added a median. We've also modified the existing median in Richfield Parkway rather than shortening it, which was the original proposal. So it really helps to better channelize traffic coming in and out and improve on the safety. Another concern was the parking lot landscaping. With this plan, we actually have more internal parking lot landscaping than we did before, mainly because of the new driveway or drive-through configuration. And on the same note, we also have patio seating on the south side of the building. There'll be a few tables outside, exact details, arrangements to be determined as we get further down the road with the owner-operator. But that's something that staff also expressed an interest in, having that patio seating and just helping to contribute to the overall pedestrian-friendly neighborhood. Lastly, we've addressed most of these comments in conjunction with the Three Rivers Park District Trail. You know, that's requiring right-of-way dedication and modification to the site plan to accommodate that trail. And so we've addressed their engineering, most of their engineering comments. You know, we can work through the rest of them during final design. But we think that that trail really integrates well into the rest of the development. And again, the pedestrian friendliness that is a big goal of this area. So to just quickly address some of the remaining comments in the staff report, Melissa did a good job speaking on the 150-foot setback for the drive-through elements. And I just want to emphasize that it is far more than 150 feet setback from the closest residential use property. It's actually more like 300 feet setback. And also in regards to parking, I'm just going to echo, what Melissa said, and that staff is in support of the reduction now. And while the city has a higher than usual parking requirement of 60 stalls, we are proposing 47 stalls, and just by different industry standards and engineering manuals and McDonald's use, they are exceeded. We think we'll have a 3 to 13 stall surplus. Really quick, and to echo what Melissa said, by McDonald's historical practice and their calculations, we would need about 38 stalls. Again, we're proposing 47. The ITE, the Institute of Transportation Engineers, in their parking manual calls for 34 to 44 stalls, 44 being the absolute peak demand. So in that case, we'd have 3 stall surplus. The OEA for the entire development calls for 37 stalls, so we'd have a 10 stall surplus there, and an industry standard rule of thumb for restaurant use would call for 39 stalls. So again, we have 8 stall surplus there. And then also minimizing the amount of on-use parking is going to only help contribute to your feeling of being bike and pedestrian friendly, minimizing that impervious area and the on-use parking spaces. So in closing, we feel that this does complement the existing and the desired neighborhood feel. We think it fills a need for fast convenience food, as there isn't much on that side of town. If you go to 66th and Nicollet, just a little bit over a mile away is the next closest drive-through restaurant. And I'm here to answer any questions as it relates to the site plan and engineering-wise. We also have representatives from Ryan Companies and McDonald's, so we'd be more than happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
Okay, just a quick question from me. Now, the 2 things that were brought up was obviously Tom's pedestrian situation and then the snow removal. So would you want to address those at this point and let us know if you've had further discussion on that? And if so, what have you come to?
We did speak about the snow removal at the ARC meeting, and we're willing to work with the city. I'll let McDonald's speak to that for certain as far as snow removal, but having a restriction that it would have to be removed if there's not space on site to keep it without blocking any of the parking stalls, we would be able to work something out like that with the city or as a condition of approval. And in regards to the pedestrian crossings, being that we're just the engineer and the designer for this private site, I can't speak as much to the pedestrian crossings for the rest of Richfield Parkway and either what has been designed or what will be designed for that area. I think for what's in our control and on this site, we've done, a really good job with incorporating the trail, and you can see we have at least two main connections to the trail, and then also there's a, right here, you'll notice there's an existing sidewalk and a gate from that church property, and so we've accommodated that existing gate as access to the McDonald's property.
Just to follow up to that then, if I recall correctly from the last discussion you had, I think one of you had mentioned that there was really little, it isn't a usual thing to have people come walking over. They usually come by auto, if I recall correctly. So even if they're at the shopping center per se. And is that a true statement, or I believe somebody said that last time?
I think it definitely depends on the situation. In this case, since there is a good amount of retail right across the street, you can't really say if somebody's not going to park their car there and then walk over to get their food versus driving. Obviously, if you're in a more rural location for a McDonald's, then yes, of course, most people drive in and there's not a lot of foot traffic. So I think it's more situation by situation basis. In this case, I could see there being a little bit more foot traffic than there typically would be for a McDonald's.
Josh?
I want to stay on foot traffic for a second here and make sure I'm understanding the diagram. I'm looking at the C3.1 that you've got in front of you.
Okay.
So I'm looking at, say, the number 12 or the number 7. I'm thinking of the cars that are parking approximately where those numbers are existing. Can you give me or walk me through your theoretical pedestrian traffic flow to the door entering into the store from those locations?
Sure, from the parking stalls.
Yes.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, and as a slight departure to what you're saying, the ADA stalls are down here, so the main doors are in this vicinity right here. So they have direct access to the main doors. People in these stalls, there's a door on this corner as well. So they would likely, and again, they're not ADA stalls, so they could either cross over the median, this is a landscape area, or they could come around and utilize this crosswalk right here to get to this main door. And then people in these stalls, same thing, either they could come across here and use the door here, or jump onto the connection to the trail and utilize this pedestrian crosswalk to get to either the main door here or here.
But I am reading that correctly. So we do have approximately a third, or maybe 25% of the parking on one side of the drive-through lane, and that traffic will have to cross the drive-through lane to get to the store. My understanding. Okay.
That is
thank
correct.
you.
And part of what's also been contemplated for some of that parking, and typically store operations will take the less desirable parking. Every site's going to have some parking that's not as good as the other. They're going to take the less desirable parking and make that employee parking. Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Go ahead.
I understand your role is just to engineer and design, and you're doing the best you can. What is the main limitation on this site?
Size.
And why is there a limit? I mean, what is stopping us from not having a bigger site here?
To keep a usable parcel to the north for there to be any functional, whether it be retail or restaurant or whatnot, store there with parking. The more we take for this, and then a lot of that's out of my realm as far as, does it work with all the numbers for everybody too? But from a straight, site restrictor, there possibly would not be enough space to the north on the remainder parcel to have a significant, it would leave a really odd size parcel. So then who knows how long that would sit vacant till the exact use that would fit in that parcel could be developed. So that's the biggest. And again, that's the non-financial, non-number side of it.
Well, yeah, because you're seeing the whole site. You're taking a macro view. You're not just looking at this one parcel. You're looking at it from the larger scale too. Is that right?
Yeah, we've definitely looked at it from that way. Mm-hmm.
That's helpful.
Other questions? Okay. Staff, could I just ask a quick question? I'm sorry, you're next. Yeah. Did you review the materials used on the building, and do you feel more comfortable with the aesthetics of it now compared to the other buildings?
Yeah, and I'll take the first shot at this, and Melissa can chime in. The last time we were here, the biggest concern from the staff was the building orientation, the fact that in our opinions it had its backside to the community, and then the materials were not consistent with the remainder of the shopping center. And I do think that McDonald's and their team have addressed both of those issues. The materials, there certainly are some components that are very specific to McDonald's that don't correlate to the rest of the center, but I think to a small extent that's to be expected. The same is true of Target and Home Depot. They introduce colors and components that are not meant to be consistent with the entire site. So yes, I do think that they have addressed those things. And I guess while I have the mic, I would just kind of pull back to bigger picture. You'll notice that in the staff recommendation, we're not really pushing one or the other. And what this comes down to, when we do the technical review, we've provided you with all of the technical analysis that we can do. What's left is the bigger picture community standards thing. You know, if you look at under required findings, you'll see, you know, words like whether or not it conforms to the goals and objectives, whether it's designed in such a manner to form a distinct and unified environment, whether it meets the purpose and intent, whether the departures from the guiding district are justified by the design of the development, those kinds of things. And those really are judgment calls. And those really are policy level judgment calls that staff, you know, it's not our place to make those judgment calls. It's the elected and appointed officials.
Okay, I'm just going to ask one more question, sorry, while we're on this, sorry. As far as the review of the safety of the site, usually you have someone look at that to ascertain if everything looks good. And can you tell us what the findings were relative to that? There's been some discussion on the crosswalks and so on and so forth, so I just want a little comfort level that you feel it's safe.
The Public Works Department and the Three Rivers Park District have reviewed and commented on the proposal. There's nothing in the proposal that strikes them as dangerous enough to say, "Oh, whoa, this needs to stop."
And I would just add that the fire department has also reviewed it. Their feeling was that it's either impossible or impractical to take one of their larger rigs into the site, but that's probably not what they would do in an emergency situation anyway. In an emergency situation, they would likely just pull up on Richfield Parkway onto the right-of-way, possibly onto the path, and disembark from that location.
Tom, I believe you were next. Then you're
Mike,
next.
just a follow-up on the parking on the west side and people getting out of their cars and walking in that walkway. Is that going to be, again, adequately marked? What is going to protect a pedestrian walking into the store from an overzealous person who just got their burger and is ready to drive off?
You know, one good solution to that would be to add, you know, a yield to pedestrian signs at the end of the drive-through, so that instead of just taking off and not having any regard or looking around, that you've got some, you know, whether it be actual signage or markings on the pavement, they've got indications that there's a crosswalk here, you know,
Okay.
yield to pedestrians.
I was going to suggest a big speed bump. Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Something that would say, hey, you know, I got to go slow here.
Mm-hmm. We can look at something like that. I know sometimes those are, you know, a hassle for snow removal, but we could certainly look at you know, or a combination of that and signage or something like
Yep.
that.
I would encourage you to do that.
Mhm.
I mean, a lot of your customers are, you know, 3 foot tall and less, you know, and they might be kind of hard to see. But I really am concerned about that right there. And I've been trying to compare your site, your proposal here to the one that we already have at Lindale and Lakeshore. And they don't have the same consideration where their drive-through is. There isn't any parking on that side. And all of the parking is to the east of it.
Mm-hmm.
But this was one that really jumped out at me, that you would have people getting out and crossing over. So if you could look at a speed bump or something that would be, you know, not just a sign, but something that's actually going to jolt somebody, I would think that would be a good thing.
Yeah, we can certainly look at that. And just on that note, and part of the site regulators that force the building to be up there, you know, there's a maximum setback to Richfield Parkway. So the building, you know, it does have to be up to the street, and because of that, and, you know, obviously in site configuration that lends itself to, you know, more parking back there. So, you know, it's not ideal in anybody's world, but
Okay,
with meeting the site regulators, that's.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, other questions of her? Okay. Josh, did you have another question for someone else, though, or no? You're just fine? Okay, any other questions?
Yeah. Yes, thanks, Commissioner Rosenberg. You know, Ryan Corporation is the owner of the real estate, and we have been talking with Ryan over the years about this location. I believe it was 2007 that they first brought McDonald's to our attention. And since that time, that's been, you know, the primary user that Ryan has been talking with us about. So I'm not sure, you know, if they got, you know, if they got locked into McDonald's in some way, shape, or form, but it's been quite some time that we've been talking about that. We have heard from Ryan other interest in kind of, I would just say, automotive-related uses that are probably even less palatable from a community standpoint.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else who would wish to address the commission on this? Anyone else? Sure, if you'd step up and address the commission with your name and address, please. Did you have a sign up there too? Okay.
I'm Dwayne Helm, a member of Mount Calvary Lutheran Church and School, and I have been involved with the Richfield planning people for a number of years, and certainly also with the developer. And we have an excellent relationship, and we've made statements as to our concerns that we have with having a fast food operation right next door. And we were first introduced to the prospects of a McDonald's located there in July of 2010, when a gentleman from McDonald's approached us. Actually, he proceeded just to come into the church office and visited with our administrative assistant or church secretary, and indicated, had a drawing with, at the time, which was ended up being the first versions of probably 3 or 4 that have since come about. And so at that time, I became aware. I did not talk with Mr. Brian Smith, who is the area construction manager in Midwest region for McDonald's. But I proceeded to take it to our church council to ask the questions and as to what the thoughts would be from our congregation's perspective. We, for 65 years, have operated an elementary Christian day school at that site. And our church sits right across the street, across 16th, at the southwest corner of, northwest corner of 16th and 66th. And we, 3 years ago, ended up closing down our elementary school operation. But we've continued with a rather successful early childhood or a preschool operation. And that sits right across the fence that at the time that this development came about, there was some land exchange that was accomplished with the city in order to provide a pull-off for the buses on 66th Street. So we gave up 17 feet at that time of property on the 66th Street side of our parking lot, the south side of our parking lot. And off-street parking has always been a premium. And so we did gain a few spots on our north side of our gymnasium building, which is further down the block then, because we do occupy the whole west side of that block between 65th and 66th Street. The the fence that was placed there is really on Ryan's property. And it runs the full length of the property, and I believe it's 10 foot high, and very nice fence. And it was to serve, to keep a separation between our property and our school activities, as well as then whatever was to be developed. And we're, like many, I think, maybe are somewhat disappointed that they were not successful with being able to get tenants into the originally designed 4 building structures that were to be there. But the roundabout, has created a great deal of traffic, admittedly, and that full development. If I remember correctly, I think there was 39 residential homes that were removed from that development at the time that Home Depot and Target and all the others came in there. And we're enjoying that development, and many of our parishioners are. It displaced some of our parishioners and so forth, but many of which have stayed members of the congregation but have moved to other communities and so forth. So, but the thing that was of most concern with our council members, and like I said, I had 3 different occasions based on drawings, and I have not had benefit. So we went on the website today, and I got the written material from the staff from the website, but I did not get a copy of the actual footprint of what's being designed. And I guess my question would be is, where is the stacking for the cars and the actual ordering point, as we would see on this footprint?
Okay, so there's 2 order points for the dual drive-through. One of them is right here.
Could you pull over the microphone so the audience?
Okay, so there's 2 ordering points since it's a dual drive-through. One is in this location and one is in this location. The city code for stacking is 70 feet. So from this point to about this point is 70 feet. So cars would stack here and then split off and go to one of the 2 order stations. I mentioned too that now there's a second lane in the one-way that provides for additional stacking above and beyond the requirement before you were to turn into the drive-through, and allow for other cars to bypass. So with the adequate stacking distance plus the extra lane, we believe there's more than adequate stacking and wouldn't create any backup onto Richfield Parkway. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Okay. Back to the point that I was going to make then, one of the, 2 or 3 of the earlier ones had the stacking right along the fence line. And just on the other side of that fence at that point is where our early childhood or preschool playground is located. And it was the noise from speakers when placing orders, but primarily the exhaust fumes from vehicles as they sit, stacking and idling and then moving forward. Those are a primary concern. As other concerns that were being stated were of the nature of food smells and lighting, overabundance of light in what actually is zoned to be residential. To half of our school building is the south half is commercial, zoned commercial, and the north half is residential, and then it goes all the way to 65th as residential. At the end of 65th on that lot there, that is our parsonage where our pastor's home is, and that's been the case for 60-some years. And then at the time that we did the
I'm just going to interrupt you just for one
Sure.
second, just to make sure that both those points that you brought up, the lighting and the odor, has been addressed in this to be looked at. So there's some modifications that need to be made for that, and that is written into the plan.
Okay. Anybody have any questions of me, I guess? I think I'm pretty well complete with what it was that we wanted to share. Other than I guess I should make one other point, is that I would assume that some type of a traffic study has been accomplished. We hear a lot of horns still today, on the roundabout. And, having only really one entrance and one egress from that piece of property, I would assume is going to create, in a very short run, a very critical situation as far as traffic buildup and backups and so forth.
So,
Yeah.
if I may, I just had one quick question. The applicant indicated that they were going to retain the gate that was in the fence. As a neighbor, do you want that gate retained, or would you rather that gate be?
Well, again, as part of the parking issue of a few years back already, that gate was put in there with the intention of being able to, Sunday mornings, allow our parishioners to be able to park on the Ryan property as such, or McDonald's property, few in number, but to accommodate. We used to be able to park across 66th on 16th on the street, but we can't be asking our parishioners to attempt now, even on Sunday mornings, to make an effort to cross. They would have to go up to Bloomington and use the lights and come back again in order to cross that area. And, so we push them north on 16th is what we do. And we do have the opportunity of going around onto 65th. But with this further development of that area up there, I don't know what's going to be happening in regards to 65th then, in regards to opening that back up again. It was intended to be just from 16th to the Parkway. It was intended to be just eastbound only by the way the curb was built there at the Parkway. But that's all. Certainly could be changed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Anyone else wish to address the commission? Anyone else? Okay, I ask for a close the public hearing.
So moved.
Okay. Okay, motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Okay, commission discussion. Anyone?
This is now the third thing in 5 years I've gotten lobbied or phone calls or visits on. The two others were the change in the glass for the MTC buses, and I noticed we've gotten that taken care of. The second thing was the housing development over on Pillsbury, and this is now the third. And the overwhelming, and to give you a sense of scale, we're talking about 5 people here, so it's not a massive number. It's been particularly negative of the proposal. I think that McDonald's has done a great job of doing the best they can with this particular site. But it brings me back to the conversation I think that we had just sort of off the cuff a few years back when Blaine gave up on a parcel that they had been holding out hope for something like 5 or 6 years, and they decided to put a Quick Trip or a Come and Go or a something in there. And it was a extremely valuable parcel, and I remember also talking with Rogie about it, because Rogie was always hammering on the best thing we've got going for us is the location. Our land is well undervalued from what reality seems to be. The market seems to be valuing it at. At some point, it's going to come around. And I watched Blaine make that decision. I think it was Blaine, and I thought, that's just bonkers. They're on Highway 65. They've got this great prime parcel of whatever, 1 point some odd acres, and they're putting in a gas station. And that's what I look at here. I don't mind a McDonald's here, but we've got this large parcel, and we had this grand plan for 4 additional outposts and something else in this particular spot. And one of the lobbyists, being my wife, really likes the idea of McDonald's going in this spot. But that's not what we had in mind here when the previous members of this body said, let's do this. And I'm going to be stubborn, and I'm going to vote no, and it's going to be based on the fact that I still have hope that this will turn out to be what it is we want it to be. We're going to eventually have the goal in this spot, and further north of this spot. It's going to happen. We have got real estate that is worth gold here. We've got transportation up to Yin Yang. We've got the infrastructure. We've got the community. And I don't think we have to settle for something other than what we had originally planned on putting here. And it's going to take time. And I know for Ryan that that's going to be unbearable. And I know for the repayment of TIF monies and whatnot, that's unbearable. And I know that this is a quick answer and an easy fix to filling that space that's been sitting there, and I can't predict what would have happened if the recession wouldn't have come when it came and all that. But I think we can do better.
Tom?
I agree and I disagree with you. I go back to something one of our learned fellow commissioner, Mr. Vizecki, said about another parcel. It's hard because we wish our pig was a cow, and our pig is not going to be a cow. For years, we have said Richfield is location, location, location. The marketplace has not said we are destination, destination, destination. I'm chagrined to admit that, but it's true. We had what I thought was a very nice parcel over by Candlewood Suites. I have always envisioned a restaurant there. You're by a hotel. Plenty of access to that off of 494, two directions, off of Nicollet, off of Lindale. Couldn't put a restaurant there. Hell, we can't put anything there right now, other than a car repair place. You know, you can say that our land is worth gold, but the marketplace is not offering it up, and they're not offering it up other than wanting to have additional public funding and so on. To say that we have to settle for this as the McDonald's is maybe somewhat true, but we did the same thing with the Kmart site. What we've got there is nice, but again, it's a tremendous waste of what could have been a prime location. And what we have there now is going to be there for a long time. These are the decisions that we have to make. We had the discussion last time with the representative from Ryan. What will happen now with the Richfield Parkway coming through and the roadway from Minneapolis, bringing hordes of people down? His answer last time, learned as he is, said, well, I don't think it'll make any difference. And perhaps he's right. I think he's wrong, but perhaps he is right, and I'm not. Unfortunately, this has been a 7-year journey. It's not been a quick fix. This is what they've been able to come up with. I'm disappointed in it, but you know, on one hand, I say we probably don't need another McDonald's in Richfield. On the other hand, what else you got to put there? And I think they've done a creditable job at addressing concerns. There just isn't much more to go on. It's a very difficult lot. I think our next big one is, as I asked, what's going to happen with the remainder of it? What is that big enough to do? Are we going to be back here next time when they come in and propose something? And, you know, gee gosh, you know, we've got this lot there that just doesn't have any more land, and we've got to settle for something. At some point or another, we've got to do something to stimulate some development on that side. It's been a long time sitting there. We've got a lot of land to go yet, and this is just a small part of it. I would be supportive of this. I do have some concerns. One of the things I would like staff to address is if you could elaborate a bit on development is expected to be responsive to the surrounding neighborhood. You have responsive in quotes. What exactly does responsive mean?
Are you asking me to
Yes.
answer that? That is a quote from the plan. I'm
That is
using
a
the
quote
words of the
from-
plan, responsive,
Yes.
and I did not write the plan.
Okay. Well, what,
So I can only guess at what that was meant at the time, but my interpretation would be that it takes into consideration its location It balances the needs of the residential and the church use to the west with the needs for commercial development at this parcel, that it fits in with the surrounding development.
But ultimately, it's you and the city council that are the folks that decide whether or not it meets that criteria. And you're the ones that really define that. You know, I don't think it's a defined definition in the comprehensive plan. It was, you know, a lot of what's in a comprehensive plan, in some respects, is meant to be open to interpretation and open to people, you know, imposing their own collective standards as a body.
Okay. Okay, well, I don't think we're giving up anything on this. I vote right for it because, in my opinion, as I said last meeting when we talked about this, first of all, kudos to you for coming back and really working the plan and making sure that that the aesthetics were taken care of, that you've addressed the way that it sits and fits, and obviously you want to do it or you wouldn't be here. So from my perspective, this is what we need, and I think it's the time, the place, and here it is. I think that what this does for the east side is it shows that it's a viable piece of property and even will bring in more and more unique situations to the community. I think that the east side needs this. It needs it to kind of just spur it, to make it feel like it's relevant, vital, and growing. And I think that's what McDonald's does. You know, and the nearest McDonald's is down on Lindale. So it's not like taking up anyone's space. It's a nice design. I think they've done a great job of coming back with some materials that meet the things that we talked about. I think that I welcome the addition, and I think kudos to you for doing a nice job to come back and get it done, because I think it'll do nothing but spur things over on that side. So I'm all for it.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be just a little contrary because I actually like the other plan better, because you'll recall I did vote yes for the other plan. But the reason why is, yes, they've done a much better job actually conforming the use to the somewhat conflicting regulations and somewhat conflicting guidance that we have from a zoning and comp plan perspective. But they've done it by making a smaller restaurant that perhaps is less vibrant than it would have been as a larger restaurant, and they've compromised an adjacent parcel. So I think to an extent, we did a bit of a disservice to the community by not letting the first plan go through. Although the frontages were incorrect, the frontages are better now, but now we've got a smaller restaurant and impingement on a second parcel and less marketability for the second parcel, but we've still only got one McDonald's. So I would have gone for the other plan, but this one, if the developers are happy with it, and if this one passes, I'd give this one a nod as well. The other cow looked better.
Chair Jabs,
Yes.
if I may, just to clarify, the size of this parcel did not change.
No, the size of the restaurant.
The size of the restaurant changed.
Yeah.
But leaving a viable parcel on the north, the size of that parcel did not change. Neither parcel changed.
I
Thanks,
thought it
Rick.
made the north parcel a little smaller based on the, all right. I misread the application then, sorry.
Just the size of the restaurant
All right.
changed.
Okay, Susan?
Stubborn, that I'm stubborn too. I think we could do better. I think I have also heard from residents in both on the east and the west side and of Richfield, and they agree that they'd like to see something better, something more conducive to family, kind of a sit-down grill type of restaurant. I'm holding out for that, so I'm not going to support this for that reason, and I guess Josh and I will be right in there together, but we're both stubborn.
Other comments? Yes, Dennis?
Let's see. I welcome McDonald's. That sounds great, a restaurant in the area. But I keep hearing the word parking over and over. I would ask them to be a good steward in the area and do something parking related with that other spot. They're asking for too many spots. There's this available parking area just to the north that both the church could use, Target could use, Home Depot could use. We could all use it, and I think when, for parking, I'm getting looks from the chair, from the commission here, but this spot to the north, it would be a great place to put additional parking. And there's a reason that Richfield wants that additional parking, and that's for safety. And so when safety becomes a concern, I'm concerned. So I would vote for it with the additional parking.
Chair Jobs?
Yes.
I would only point out that parking doesn't pay taxes.
People do, and they got to be
and-
safe
and
and
buildings.
protected, sir.
Okay, any other comments?
Just what Commissioner Rosenberg has said and what has passed for quite a while. I mean, we have hoped for more for Richfield for a long time. They've been trying to do this for 7 years with this lot. I don't know that they can do any better. I think we asked that last time. We talked about it. What other restaurant companies have been approached for this area? And I think you said that Blue Plate for one. You've exhausted all of the opportunities there. I believe the representative from Ryan backed that up. I just don't know that there's any other possibility for this, and would it be worth it to wait another 5 years? You know, Lord knows what he might be able to find, and it might not be anything other than this. You know, on the one hand, no, I agree. Another McDonald's, another fast food restaurant is not what I would envision for Richfield. Truly, I would agree with you on that. On the other hand, McDonald's has been a pretty good corporate citizen in a lot of other areas. I have no reason to believe you would be anything less here. Unless somebody's got some other better suggestion and better possibility and can do it within the next 6 months, I think that we've exhausted Ryan's ability to put anything in there other than a McDonald's or another fast food franchise.
Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, I'd ask for a motion.
I move we approve with the staff recommended modifications with respect to lighting and snow removal.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Can you raise your hands? Okay, opposed?
No.
Okay, does not pass. Very good. Thank you for your time. Okay, next item on the agenda, any new business?
Chair? Just recommend, I know this is a special session, and people get, the applicants have a right to due process, and that's important, but the citizens have a right to due process. And I think people are already confused about city government, so the more we can do to make it normal and not disrupt the schedule would be helpful. So maybe, you know, having rules for special sessions, I don't really know, but maybe having it being an emergency. I can't imagine this is an emergency, but I would suggest that as a new business item. I hope that's right to offer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Any old business?
I don't know if it's exactly old or new or whatever, but I do have some questions in regard to a parking situation that's occurred on Penn Avenue with the adult daycare. I believe I had emailed both of you in regard to this. I had gotten calls from some folks at one of the adjacent shops that they are now parking a bus, their transportation bus, outside for a length of time. Now, I understand that they can do this. It's a public access parking in front, but that isn't what they told us they were going to be doing. What they told us was that they were going to be transporting the adults, dropping them off, and taking off. They were not going to park it there for a length of time, and I'm talking 4 or 5 hours. I understand, again, legally they can do that. I did go and speak with them as well as the adjacent business owner. Not that I have any authority to do that or any power whatsoever, but I did suggest that they get together and start talking, which they have. Whether or not it will be resolved, I don't know, but at least they're talking. The issue is, we get told something here when we're presented with a proposal for approval of a business or approval of a plan or something, and then they go off and do something different. And this happens time and time again, and one of the issues is parking. So what I would like to propose is that we ask the city council to open a task force on this particular issue. We seem to have a parking problem in Richfield, and we need to address it in some form or fashion, and I think it needs to be studied a little bit more in depth. What happens once we approve things? We've had the same thing over by Pizza Luce, which is a horribly successful business. I love it too much. I mean, I think I've put on a pound or two going there, but during their business hours, they have people parking up and down. It's very, very crowded over there. I have fear that that same thing is going to happen at Lindale Garden. And then across the way, there's going to be another restaurant opening up. I think this is an issue that needs to be addressed in more depth than what we have in the past. And I would like to ask my fellow commissioners to ponder this, and if they would consent to asking the city council to elevate this to a study session and perhaps a task force to look at it.
What's the best approach to bringing that forward? If
Well, we
see if they're
can
interested?
do so. We can do so through a council memo. I would just say that we did have 2 study sessions, the title of which was Development Impediments, and really the 2 primary topics were parking and fire suppression. The issue with parking is we're oftentimes in a no-win situation, because on the one hand, we're telling businesses that they can't expand, because if they were to expand, they couldn't park their expansion needs. And so then we're hearing from policymakers, from the Chamber of Commerce, and other folks that, gosh, staff, you're acting as obstacles for business growth. And then on the other hand, when things do meet the standards in the parking, in our parking ordinance, but for whatever reason, the business is more successful than anybody thought it was going to be. That's untenable as well. I would say with that development impediments discussion, we told the city council that we were going to come back with some, and let me state too, these were joint meetings with the planning commission and city council. So we told the combined group that we'd come back with some recommendations for changes, and the 3 of us are working on that. There are some that are immediately pending and some that are more kind of in the brainstorming session. And as it relates to the brainstorming piece of it, if you have ideas, thoughts, please email them to us.
Well, one of the things, like for instance, in that Penn Avenue area, I've asked about this before. The HRA owns this old Vale house. It's just sitting there collecting chipmunks. And I understand that there's probably some issues with TIF and so on, and what do you do with that building? But I still wonder why it cannot just be torn down. It's not going to be used as a residential unit anymore.
Yeah.
Tear it down and create some supplemental parking. Unfortunately, where the parking problem is further south.
Right. And on that particular one, that is something we're going to be bringing to the HRA, I think in September, maybe October, I think it's September, is that very idea on that very property. The issue is, who can you park there? And really, it's Wolf Central and Mother Duck Daycare, neither of which have any reported parking
Right.
problems.
Right. But at the same time, it would be, some additional available parking there. I mean, but it is a problem, and I'm not saying that effort hasn't been put into it. It's just that, I don't know, maybe we've got to think further outside the box on this problem.
Yeah, and so here's what we'll do. Like I said, we're working on some solutions. When we put together our findings, or however, I don't know, findings is the right word, but when we put together some thoughts on how we'd like to move forward, one of those would address the issue of having some kind of a task force or some kind of a body that would be advisory on parking issues.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to liaison reports. Community Services Commission. No report. City Council?
Let's see, City Council. I have a couple of things to mention. One of them, did you guys know on July 19th that Police Officer Orlando Zabala was commended for his heroic efforts back in December, stopping a jumper in Richfield? That happened on City Council. And trying to attract a new business possibly in Solera Corp. And possibly changing an ordinance in the parks to allow alcohol at events. And that's all I got for the City Council.
Okay, thank you. Housing Redevelopment Authority.
And you can't hear me? Okay. There was apparently, and I caught this because of the sun, there was a study session with the council and the planning commission, and yet again decided they didn't particularly care for the iteration of redevelopment for the northern section of the area we were discussing tonight, for some primarily senior housing with some senior housing amenities. And that's what I've got for you.
Thank you. Richfield School Board.
The board, or the district actually celebrated the 25th anniversary of board member Lamberger. And Mr. Chair, you must be coming up on 25 years here as chair. He brought root beer floats, so, I mean. They also bid out a contract for the replacement of the intercom system at the dual language school and at Sheridan. And the school district received a grant to help with recycling from Hennepin County at the dual language school as well.
Thank you. And Transportation Commission?
No report.
No report. And how about Chamber of Commerce? Good. Excellent.
You also had a ribbon cutting up here at Anytime Fitness. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, thank you. And anything other, Tom?
I got to bring up PennFest.
Mm-hmm.
Next Sunday, we're going to have a party. There will be no parking problems on Penn Avenue because Penn Avenue will be closed. People can come on their rollerblades, on their bicycles. They can walk if they want to, but there will be plenty of stuff to do along Penn Avenue from north to south. Just some reminders. The bridge up there at 62 in Penn will be closed all directions, as it's my understanding anyways that the ramps on, off, and so on will be closed. So people will have to use other ways to get into Aldi's and Lund's through the back alleyway. But starting at Lund's and going south, we'll have plenty of activities, root beer floats at Lund's, the bike rodeo down by Penn Cycle, and in between there's plenty of other things going on. I would encourage people to come, and if you live in that area, you're going to get a booklet like this delivered to your door with a few coupons in and schedule of events and so on. I invite everybody to come. The other thing I'd like to point out is that the other day, right by Signs by Tomorrow, we hung the first Penn Central banner, which we're hoping is going to put a little personality into the neighborhood over there. And that's been a long time coming too, but it is a way to brand the neighborhood. And we're pretty proud of that.
Very good. Thanks for all your work on that, Tom. The next meeting date is October 28th, and so there will be no September 23rd meeting.
Chair
Anything
Jeffs.
else?
Chair Jebs.
Yes.
Just a quick note. I did hear from the Public Works Department, much to Commissioner Schuler's chagrin, that we may need a special meeting in October for a grant application that they are applying for. We wouldn't be able to make the September 23rd meeting anyway because of public hearing requirements. Public Works might not be able to wait. Actually, the way the dates fall, October 28th will actually be after the second city council meeting that month, so we would have to wait until November for council. We always try to schedule those special meetings on planning commission work session dates so that it's at least somewhat in our norm, but we will give you as much notice as possible if that is going to happen.
Very good. Anything else?
Chair?
Yes?
Just a couple things going on in the neighboring cities. Final development plan is being considered for the 555,000 square foot Phase 1C expansion over at the Mall of America. Toro, you see they're under construction over there. That's cool. And Edina can't get enough high rises off of York. Is that terrific?
Very good. Okay, anything else? If not,
So moved. Second.
very good. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
I know.
Thanks for your efforts, Commissioner Visacki.
Big enough.